Welcome! Welcome to the Life Practice PBL Facebook live chat. So glad that you guys are able to make it as you're coming in. And good, it says I'm live this week, or at least today it's working on the first try. It's good. Just want to mention tonight's topic is a little bit different. Folks sent in some questions, and boy, did y'all send in some questions. Not only did you send in questions on the Padlet, but you also messaged me. So I want to say thank you so much for that. We have a lot of questions about project-based learning, and I'm going to take a moment to answer a couple of those questions. I couldn't answer everyone. I'm trying to find ways to combine them to where I can kill two birds with one stone, or open 8 windows with one, you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to do more than one thing at a time. But also tonight, as promised, I get to announce the winners of the 4 books giveaway. Y'all overwhelm me, seriously, with the comments, the shares, the likes, the loves, and all that in the first 4 video chats we've done. Each time, that's awesome. We're still growing. And so I say thank you to everybody. But special nods go to the following giveaway winners, picked totally at random by one of my colleagues. It was in a spreadsheet, and I said choose a number and a letter, and she picked 4. And the first winner of the Life Practice Lessons for Life Practice Learning goes to, are you guys doing a drum roll out there? Sue Levine from Atlanta, Georgia. Yay! The second one goes to Scott Riebel in Iola, Kansas. Yay! And the third for August, the giveaway, is Mickey Fryover in Peabody, Kansas. Gets her book. Da-da-da. And lastly, a fella, honestly, I've never met before, but he's come in and did some commenting and sharing, and I hope someday to meet him in real life, is Brendan Murphy in McHenry, Illinois. So, yay. If you folks, Sue, Scott, Nikki, Brendan, if you guys would message me your mailing information, I'll be happy to get those books in the mail to you. And I'll also message you in case, we're unable to get in here tonight. But I'm saying hi to Ginny and hi to Jill coming in. Appreciate you guys being here. So, gonna dive in here. Got some good questions. One of them was Jenny's question, actually. So, question today. Go ahead, if you have questions right now that you've not yet had a chance to post, go ahead and put them in. I'll try to get to them, but honestly, I don't want this whole thing to go too long. We've been going 20, 25 minutes, and that's just a lot of time. So I do have some folks who posted their questions a day or so ago. I'm going to work on those first. So we're going to get going. As you're posting your questions, let's get the first one asked. The first one was asked, do you think there's a way to change project into PBL? This is a question from Jenny Ogden in Virginia. By the way, Jenny, I'm coming to visit y'all soon, aren't I? Yes? I think that'd be cool. Anyway, can't wait. Thank you for posting that question, Jenny. It was something I want to talk about anyway. I think it's something that's realistic, because when we're really busy teachers, we look online and there's a ton of great projects. How can I use that to inspire great PBL? We're also going to be hitting a topic from somebody who didn't leave their name. They asked about choice and voice in the classroom while making sure all kids are learning what they have to learn. So it's the question, how do I let them go on separate paths while still doing what they need to do, because this is school. And of course I'm paraphrasing this, so yeah. And my new friend, Kara Warren, she lives here, right here in Hutchinson. I just met her, we'll just say 4 months ago. I'm not sure. Time doesn't really work for me some days, but it's recently. And she has asked to see examples of PBL in action. Now, that one's hard to do without actually going step by step by step. But I'm going to try to blend that in there a little bit, but it might be just a bigger topic for a whole different chat, Kara. So here we go with that. So let's dive in. Changing a great project to PBL. So let's say you have a good project that you like to do, or maybe you found a good project that's almost perfect, if only it could be a little bit more PBL. And I get it. Like I said, the internet is packed with almost great PBL ideas and not enough just right PBL. So can we find a simple way to shift all those great ideas into PBL? I'm saying yes, we can. So I've compiled a list of things we want to look at as we shift a project into good project-based learning. Let's start with number one. I think there's 6, just to give you a heads up. So let's start with number 1. Remember that PBL is learning by doing. It's not learning something and then doing something to show what we learned. It's learning by doing. We want to give the kids a challenge or a question that's tasty enough to where they're ready to dive right in. Sometimes our launch event can whet that appetite for the challenge or a question that isn't necessarily really tasty by itself. But bonus points if you can create a launch event around a topic that compels kids to create their own questions or challenge. It's tough, but if we can still think about it, then we're moving in the right direction. So what is it, as I'm looking at the project online, that kids are learning and experiencing in that internet project? How can we change that into a challenge? For instance, a lot of us have to teach or get to teach about, say, volcanoes or Pompeii or that sort of thing. So instead of making like a diorama of Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii or a presentation like we do a lot of times, what if we challenged kids to create a plan to go back? Oh, it's backwards. Oh, fine. And I'll just show it from out here. Because it's right for me. You'd think I'd have learned this by now. What if we challenged them to create a plan that would save the citizens of Pompeii? So what are they having to learn? Well, they've got to learn what kind of volcano Vesuvius was. Because it wasn't one of those that flowed lava. But we don't tell them that. We're like, well, how did it happen? How did it work? Who was in there? And we're going to learn about the different types of people. We're going to learn about the slaves. We're going to learn about the merchants. We're going to learn about the noblemen. Now, how could we, as a math piece to it, because we're going back to save the citizens of Pompeii, we can't stop the volcano, but how can we get them out? And by the way, this is super tasty because I just saw on the news the other day that they're doing some scans on the bodies of folks who are left over from Pompeii, Pompeii's destruction. And they're learning all sorts of new things. And so anytime that we can bring that, oh my gosh, that's a brand new discovery from history. We thought we knew everything. We don't. Anyway, so if we can change something we learn into some sort of tasty challenge, that's so much better. Okay, number 2. Let's consider where we want to allow kids to make choices. Can they decide which portions they're going to dive deeper into? Of course, there's always the must-know info that kids have to encounter, but can they also dive deep into the, I don't know, fill in their topic of interest? So let's say we're learning about sea life, right? Maybe the challenge is that they'll be designing a living space under the ocean. Okay, so then if they're building a living space under the ocean, because we made a tasty challenge, but I needed them to learn about sea life. I needed them to learn about the types of oceans. I needed them to learn about the types and temperatures of oceans, the depths of oceans. Maybe they needed to know what would be in there next to a coral reef. Maybe they needed to know about the layers of the, maybe they needed to know about the mid-Atlantic rift. Maybe there's the trenches they needed, the subduction zones. I don't know, whatever it is you need them to know. If the challenge is design an underwater sea colony, a living space under the ocean, can we bring in these other must-knows? Well, you're going to be living under there. What are we going to see? Whatever your must-knows are, make sure that everybody knows it, but then say, well, but if we're going to define a learning space, what would we, or a living space, what would we need in that? Would we need a government? Would we need, what would we wear? What would we, where would we take care of our food? How could we breathe? How could we, and then let them choose which of those pieces they wanted to do. But there would be some non-negotiable must. You got to be able to tell me what type of ocean we're in, y'all, and why we're picking this one, and why it's the non-negotiables that everybody has to put their hands on. If I have kids are building let's say a Viking ship, right? They don't get to build that ship. They want to build the ship because it's super fun. But if you can't tell me where the Vikings lived and what they did and how they and the things I need them to know, you got to get your hands off that boat, y'all, because you're going to build something wrong. What is it they want to do, and how can I Trojan horse in that learning to that? That's how I get them choice and voice in on that piece. Third, how can we shift again that project into PBL? How can we help kids find their own resources? Many projects, not PBL, many projects have reading assignments or video assignments that we ask our kids to read and watch. And then we ask them to tell us what they read or what they watched. And then we label them dumb or smart based on their ability to recall and give it back to us, right? I don't want to hand the kids reading assignments. I want to help them learn to find articles and resources online. I want them to be able to look, find them, and then weigh the information they're finding. Help them to be able to triangulate that information with information they find elsewhere. And to figure out, are you making sure that all those sites that you're looking at are valid and reliable? Which ones are not? And because, y'all, this is a real world skill. I mean, what are they learning when we give them everything they need to know? They're learning that we're the source of all learning. I want them to feel empowered, as if they can learn and do things without me, because they can and they should, and I need to cut the apron strings. So how do I help them learn to be learners? I want a big piece of that. The fourth piece is how can we get this, whatever we're doing, in front of people who really care about it. Right now, when we present in projects, we present to the class. They don't care. This isn't something they're like, unless they really do, but most of the time it's a teacher assignment. With a project-based learning, how can we use real experts in the world as we're learning? How can we present to people who would truly care? I mean, truly care, not just politely care. Oh, it's kids and they're doing their thing. I'm here. And then I go home and think, wow, those kids learned some things. I think that a lot of people would be polite to projects. In PBL, the work has to matter to someone, right? So how can we find that group of people? I'm going to pick on that in just a little bit more. Maybe in science class, say, we want the kids to learn about tornadoes, right? Tornadoes. This says, create a book, audio, or video-based story that teaches about tornadoes. Okay. What do we normally do? We have them research, they build a presentation about tornadoes. Huh, exciting and meaningful. And what if instead they created that audio book or that video or even a public service announcement series that would help a specific group of people be safe during tornadoes? They get to pick what type of the delivery method that is. That's their voice and choice. They get to pick which group is at risk of dying from tornadoes. Are they going to look at kids who might be at home alone? Are they looking at the elderly? What should we be able to do if you're, or people who live in trailer homes? How can we target a specific group of people who in our community are at risk for dying or being terribly injured during tornadoes or put in hurricanes or whatever is nearby that's important for your kids to know. They get to consult with local safety committee on the authentic resource, and then we'll share our work with that specific population as the authentic audience. And not only are they learning science, right? They're not only learning about the tornadoes or whatever it is, they're also practicing a ton of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. I mean, this is straight up informational text, expository. How can we, people say, I don't have enough time. How can we marry these two things together to where now we're, again, killing those two birds? Poor birds. Apparently they're not safe around me. I am a bird lover, but that thought, that idea. Yeah, and Ginny, you're right. It is a challenge when kids are used to being given everything. At what age is it appropriate that we stop doing that? When we release them from high school? All right, kids, good luck. Or should we start earlier and kind of scaffold that? I mean, when I work with littles, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, I can collect resources into like a live binder or something, things that I have vetted, and then say, search here. You know, I'm not going to open them up to the whole World Wide Web, right? I'm just going to search here. And then as they get more experience, I'll start throwing in some red herrings, things that aren't right, things that are incorrect information, and then help them weigh out the information. Now, did you look at everything in here? And then eventually, as they get older, by the way, you may want to not just start with third graders. Maybe your kids are 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who've never had an opportunity to actually think about the stuff they're reading online. So maybe you start with 7th graders with that live binder, but quickly graduate them off because they are doing Google searches and they're doing them poorly. And so how can we mentor that in something that matters? Not just because I told them to, but because we're saving lives, y'all. The tornadoes will be coming. We got to save people's lives, and your information has to be right. It matters. See, that's different than just looking at tornadoes and giving a presentation in class. Man, the tornadoes do this and we should be safe that way. It's not really saving lives. I'm just jumping through your hoops, teacher. Let's go to number 6, what I think. Hey, Brendan, by the way, I see you're in here. Did you hear, man? You won one of the free giveaway books, by the way. I'll be giving you information. I'll send you a message. Anyway, thanks for being here again. Number 6. Just keep asking yourself, how can I make this project that I'm finding online, that's very much project, not project-based learning, how can I change that to be more interesting for the kids? How can I make this more real and more real world than just school flavored, right? How can I get my kids' work seen by people that it matters to? Maybe they're building something for younger kids. Maybe they're building something for, older folks, or a museum, or something beyond just me as the teacher looking at it. How can I take this project and make it matter? So that's the 6th sort of thing. I know this is easier said than done, and not every project translates easily. I just got a question on Twitter this evening that the lady said, hey, expanded form, how do I make a PBL out of that? And I'm like, the math stuff? To me, some of this is that like people ask me all the time, how do I make a grammar PBL? Man, I wouldn't make a grammar PBL. I would make grammar matter in a PBL that matters. That matters. Because if you're not using proper grammar on these tornado things or this get up, stand up, coordinate an event to help support the civil rights of a chosen group. You pick the group, y'all. I don't care who you're picking, right? And if your grammar sucks, who's going to listen to you? See, it matters. This is another one I love. This is Poe, Madman or Genius. Create an autobiography for Poe or for yourself using Poe's style. What a great opportunity to learn about an author is that you're writing the autobiography of the author in the author's style. That'd be a challenge. Is it a project? It is if you say, this is what you're going to do and here's how you do it. But how could we get the kids to where they'd say, wow, that would be really fun and interesting? By the way, if these are interesting to you at all, I do want to let you know, these are part of Kevin Honeycutt and my's curriculum that we've built. Well, we have 64 of these cards, and if you'll notice, here's the challenge, the thing that the kids are like, oh, what? And you can see it done in a social studies, science, math, reading, writing, that sort of work over there. These are our Life Practice PBL recipe cards. If you go to lifepracticepbl.org, you can see them. You can see a lot of them. You can read the titles and be inspired, or you can buy them and have all of it. The back of the card helps people figure out what you want to do before the project prep, launching it, and then during the project maintenance, and how to end the project. These are good sorts of supports for folks who are busy, who have good ideas, but want to go deeper, or I'm busy with this project and it's so hard to think of something else while I'm still in this action. So yeah, if you want to look at those, Kara, I think actually Kelly might have some of your principles, so you might want to take a look. Anyway, so I'm looking at the time. It's about 20 minutes. There you are. There's some food for thought, how to turn project into a PBL. I did talk a little bit about voice and choice. Do we have time for another question? I don't think so, guys. I wish I could answer everyone's, but I promise we will have another Ask Ginger Anything session coming back up in October 7th. So if you want to know more, you can always read my blog over at gingerlewman.com. I've written a ton of things. People ask me these things. I've been in PBL for 10 years. I've heard a lot of questions, and I write them on my blog because I don't like to answer them 800 times. So you can go back through there and look. If you have a specific question, I might either answer it to you, or I'll send you to a blog post or a series of them, or help you find it from some other resource. Also, I want to let you know, if you're impatient, you can also I know, I'm doing it, and I feel like I got some sort of, should be wearing my white slacks and the white shoe. Yeah, Herb Tarlick, for those of us of age, you know. Anyway, if you're impatient and you want to learn more, this book is Lessons for Life Practice Learning. I'll put a link to where you can get it. If you buy it on Amazon as a paper copy, it costs a lot more than if you buy it from our website. But the Kindle version is really inexpensive. So if you're okay to, because I thought, why are Kindles so much more expensive? They cost way less to make. And so while people recommended that we should price them the same, I said absolutely not. They would be priced much less because some of us need it. So anyway, get through with that. I've spent 5 years writing this book, y'all. I've been this is what I wanted when I started my school. And of course, if you know PBL, then this might help take you to another level or a deeper level. So with that, thank you all so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Share this with folks if you would like. You know, I don't have any giveaways yet for September. If anybody has any really great ideas on what we need to do for September, it looks like our next is September 7th. It's a Venn diagram of STEM and PBL. They're similar, but they are not the same. And we also talk about Maker Ed and PBL on September 14th. September 22nd is that question of how do I know they're learning in PBL? You know, if they're out there just doing their thing, how do I make sure that they're truly learning? That's September 22nd. That covers all of September. So, Karen, thank you so much. I love you. You make me feel good. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much. Mwah. Good night. Good night.